Right, welcome everyone to the Shareholder Committee on Thursday, the 5th of November 2020. The committee members present, there's myself, Andy Dagorn as chair, have Councillor Paula Widdowson and Councillor Cuthbertson, also of the three members of the committee. First item on the agenda is declarations of interest. So this is obviously for the councillors who are making the decisions. Do you have?
Excuse me, Chair. Can I just
Sorry.
clarify? Sorry, Chair.
Sure.
Can I just clarify that Mr. Committee itself and Councillor Widdowson?
Sorry.
I think. Can I just clarify for the committee? It's yourself and Councillor Widdowson this afternoon.
It's Councillor Cuthbertson's in attendance. Is that correct?
Yes,
he's in attendance, but for the City of York trading issue,
Okay.
so he's not here as a member of this committee. So just to clarify.
Right, thank you for clarifying that point. Was that what you wanted to say, Ian?
Yes, it is. Okay, thank you, Chair.
So I don't have any personal or prejudicial interests. I gather some other changes in personnel that's why Councillor Ayre's not here, just to avoid any conflict of interests. Councillor Widdowson, do you have any declarations?
No.
No. Okay. In that case, I will move on then to item 2, which is the minutes of the meeting on the 17th of December 2019, which seems a bit of a lifetime away now. Obviously was a real live meeting. Myself and Councillor Smalley were the committee members present, so I can approve these minutes as a correct record of that meeting. I don't know if office has got any matters that need to be raised from those minutes. I think we're only dealing with what's on the agenda, so they're really for recording as a record of that meeting. So then that moves me to item 3, which is exclusion of press and public, and a number of items have confidential papers attached to them. So as listed on the agenda is agenda item 5, which is Veritau Limited business update, agenda item 6, City of York Trading Limited, agenda item 7, Yorwaste Trading update, and agenda item 8, Make It York Managing Director's report. All have some confidential items. So can I have the, just to read the correct terminology, on the grounds these reports and annexes contain information relating to financial and business affairs, including the authority that holds the information. The information is classed as exempt under paragraph 3, schedule 12A to section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended in 2006. So Paula and myself, are we happy that we exclude the press and public for discussing the confidential aspects of those reports? I think we will obviously have a public discussion of what we can discuss it in public, but then move into private session for a more detailed confidential discussion.
And that's very sensible, Chair. Yes, I agree.
Okay. So if given that you can minute that we have agreed for private session in that respect, item 4 is public participation. I understand we've got no one available who is actually going to speak to this item, but we did have a representation, an individual written representation, which we can refer to when we come to that particular item. I think the main reference in that was to the fact that we do need to develop a work plan, which will probably arise out of a discussion that we have on the items subsequently. So that is item 4. We have no actual speakers to address the meeting. So in that case, if I can move on then to, and as I said, what I would tend to do is if we take each item in turn, and if there are any points that the speaker or members of committee wish to say in public, we can deal with that now. We won't actually formally approve the report until we've had the private session, but that will be recorded with the minutes subsequent to the meeting, the decision we come to at the end of the full meeting. So the first item I've got is Veritau Limited Business Update. Do I have somebody who wishes to address us on this?
Chair, I'll present a short summary.
Okay.
So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Max Thomas. I'm the Chief Executive of Veritau, and I've got my colleague Richard Smith, who's the Deputy Chief Executive, also in the meeting. So if I just start with just a little bit of background. So Veritau was originally set up as a shared service company in 2009. The company is jointly owned by the council and North Yorkshire County Council, and since 2009 a further 7 councils have joined as members of Veritau, and this expansion has necessitated the creation of a further 2 group companies, and collectively the 3 companies are known as the Veritau Group. The group employs over 70 professional staff now. It delivers internal audit, counter fraud, risk management and data protection services to its member councils and a large number of other public sector clients. So as well as making a profit each year, we deliver value back to York and the other member councils in a variety of ways, and I've listed those in the covering report. It's a model that's been replicated elsewhere in local government now, and the brand itself has a very good reputation across local government. So the report we're presenting today is in 2 parts. The first part covers performance last year, and the second part looks forward to this year and beyond. So we've summarised the results for the 3 group companies and our key achievements for 2019-20 in the covering report. Overall, it was a very good year. We welcomed 3 new member councils and also gained a number of other public sector clients. The addition of the new member councils did lead us to creating a new group company, so that's now called Veritau Tees Valley Limited. And we also had to manage the transfer of 2 groups of staff into Veritau from their host councils. I've also listed some of the other key achievements in the covering report. I do mention the audited accounts, so they've now been signed off by our external auditors, so they've been filed with Companies House now. The 2020-21 business plan was approved by the Veritau board in March this year, and given the expansion last year, our main priority really this year is to consolidate our customer base, but also to focus on developing the offer to our member councils, including York, particularly around IT audit, data analytics and information security. So I'm very happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you for that. Paula, do you have questions on the covering report that you want to raise?
I've got quite a few questions, but I'd rather we did it when we were in the confidential session, because I don't want to trespass on any of the numbers and make sure that I'm not letting any confidential information out, if that makes sense. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any question to raise at this point, so if we can move on then to the next report, and we'll come back to, as I said, to a more detailed discussion in the private session, if that's okay with everybody. So the next report I have is the City of York Trading Limited. So it's a report regarding trading annual audited accounts for 2019-20 and a report containing the company business plan for 2021.
Yes, there's several different pieces of paper in front of the board. The one I'm going to talk about now is the City of York Trading Limited update, which references the business plan, but the business plan is in the confidential part of this meeting. So it's principally talking about the accounts from last year, which have been now audited and filed with Companies House, having been approved by the board. The company made a profit after tax last year of £332,000, which was in line with the previous year, but without a holiday pay adjustment after the government allowed carry forward of holiday for 2 years in light of COVID. So actually it was a better result than the previous year because that unclaimed holiday pay had not been added in. The company has set a budget for this year. That budget was set prior to the pandemic, and there have been inevitably some effects of COVID on the company's performance year to date. That's dealt with in more detail in the confidential part of the report, but I'm pleased to say that the company is now in profit after a challenging time in the first quarter. The other part of this report deals in detail with the composition of the board of directors and goes through the various appointments and resignations and various resolutions of the council for different executive members to be part of the company. Councillor Cuthbertson is going to pursue that further in a separate report in the confidential elements of the meeting. And John Dobson, who's our other non-exec committee member who's here, is also a member of the remuneration committee, which is mentioned in that report. So he will be dealing with that aspect too. At the moment, it's really just a question of the accounts, therefore, for the committee to consider and to receive.
Thank you. Just a sort of a general question, I suppose, from me is in terms of how the pandemic is, how the organisation is managing. I know it's a sort of obviously a challenge for everybody, but how it's affecting the operation and what sort of changes you're having to make.
Okay, in terms of our own staff, we've been working from home more or less since March, remote working. We were able to return to the office between around July and September. We installed screens and social distancing, had limited numbers of staff working on different days, so we had a kind of shift system. Unfortunately, on the 22nd of September, however, with a further directive that we must all work from home again, we all scuttled off back to home. But we prepared for remote working in advance of the lockdown, so we were actually all ready to go, and it's been sort of business as usual in terms of response to clients. The challenge has been that some of the business intentions, the plans that we had for the business this year have not been able to progress in the way that we wanted. Obviously, big parts of our business are to provide staff to City of York Council, which has still been running throughout the pandemic, and schools, which have been running to some extent throughout the pandemic. So we have had some success in those areas, but some of our commercial plans have been changed.
Yeah. Thank you. Paula, do you have any questions to?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I have got lots of different questions, but genuinely, some of the questions mention your numbers, and I do not want to go across any confidential line.
Okay, well,
Chair, Janie's trying to get your attention. We're obviously
okay.
not doing something.
Well,
no,
it's raised a virtual hand, and I wasn't looking at the right point of the screen.
I clearly need to learn. I clearly need to learn that skill, Chair. Sorry about that. I'm just sticking with my physical hand at the moment.
Okay.
I just wanted to make reference in the public part of the meeting about the shareholder agreement for City of York Trading. The shareholder agreement has it's been required to undergo amendment, and it does need to be signed off. That agreement is a reserved function for the executive, and therefore we've liaised with City of York Trading, and I will ensure that it goes to the next available meeting for executive when we can comply with the timescales, etc., for publication of the agenda, so that executive can consider the amended and updated shareholders agreement. I proposed, Chair, for consideration by yourself and Councillor Widdowson, that once that is signed, that we bring it here for noting, and just for shareholder committee's information, that it is up to date and is there in a completed form. Thank you.
So minute the fact that is in train to be addressed, but it has to go to the executive before it's reported here. Yeah.
It will also need to be signed by the company as well, won't it?
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, thank you for that point. Keep an eye on anybody else waving at me. So the next report that we have is Yorwaste trading update and reporting. SJB recycling is no longer trading. So who's going to address this item?
Myself, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
So just to sort of give a bit of context in terms of Yorwaste, I think as a Teco company, people often get a bit confused about how we deliver value, and I thought it'd be quite helpful.
Do you want to just explain what a Teco company is? Just would be helpful for the uninitiated.
Yeah, Teco company is a private company that is wholly and exclusively owned by the local authority shareholdings, and in our case, North Yorkshire and City of York. As a Teco company, it can contract out 20% of its revenue / turnover to commercial enterprises, and then that revenue in turn helps either deliver a profit or reduce the cost to the shareholder, who's also the client for most of the services. So 80% of our business is relating to the local authorities, 20% is relating to commercial activities. So as a Teco company, we can either have more profit or we can reduce the costs, and what we need to do is to try and make sure that we balance those in a tax efficient way that maximizes the shareholder benefit. We also help out in terms of delivering value via the shareholders' investment in Allerton Park, where there is a certain sort of contractual arrangement whereby when you achieve certain tonnages, that will deliver contribution to the shareholder via the Allerton Park. And we contribute to that by bringing in tonnages to help meet what's called Tier Band 2 obligations. So when we deliver that, you want to maximize that, and that's what we're doing indirectly to deliver value. And then intangibly, we provide additional expertise at no cost to the shareholders, specifically the waste teams, in terms of developing solutions for the longer term. So at the moment, we've obviously got issues in terms of what we're going to do, potential for separate food waste collections, potential for standardized recycling collections, all under the government waste strategy, which is one of the key elements over the next couple of years. So that's how we bring value. You'll recall, Chair, from the last meeting that we'd sort of had a particularly difficult year the year before, as we transitioned from being a landfill operator to now one which is a transfer operator, and we've now sort of stabilized on the other side of that. So whilst we're reporting a loss for the year ending March 2020, unfortunately, that was basically brought down by that. It would have been a profit had it not been for two key events. One is relating to a contract we had at Seamakar for recycling, which was signed up 7 years ago in a very different environment and was quite onerous towards the end. That contract's now ended, and there's obviously closure costs involved in closing down that material recycling facility, MRF. The other one is what's being referred to in the press at the moment as zombie batteries, lithium-ion batteries. They are sort of a huge issue in the waste industry at the moment in terms of they are one of the main causes of waste fires in transfer stations. Last fiscal year, we had 3 fires. If we hadn't had those 3 fires and we hadn't had Seamakar MRF, we would have been delivering a solid profit for the year. In terms of the current year, obviously the hot topic is COVID. So we were quick to respond, and as a result, we furloughed commercial staff where we were able to. We reduced the number of fleets we were able to, and we actively managed our non-effective, which basically means holidays and sickness, etc., in a way that we were able to do during the lockdown period. As a result of all of that, despite the fact that sort of commercial activity fell about 2/3 during the first lockdown, we were able to actually end the half year ahead of budget. And I think that's encouraging, because I think we're still cautiously optimistic of delivering ahead of budget towards the end of the year. So I think that's sort of demonstrating that we've turned around. How we've been able to achieve that, we've actually, over the last 3 years, reduced our management team by almost a half, and that's saved a significant amount of money. And that money has allowed us to reinvest in equipment, which now gives us a significantly more stable and efficient business in terms of its operations. We've also invested in IT systems, which are allowing us to identify problems and issues much quicker and solve them much quicker. In terms of looking forward, we've still got some challenges. I think that the big challenges are the aftercare liabilities, but we've got a plan for that, and we've got action plan in place for that, and we're managing that quite closely, and we're working with the shareholder to keep them appraised of what that liability looks like over its long term. But at the moment, it is under control. Commercially, it's a very highly competitive market. You'll have seen a lot more competitors on the streets of York and around. It's a very attractive industry at the moment, with limited barriers to entry, and therefore we've got to sort of compete with that. But the new investment systems and new equipment is allowing us to give a better service to our customers, and we're able to retain them a lot better. So looking forward, the big issues are government waste strategy and what may come out of the unitary discussions. All of those may have an impact for us. There's opportunities regardless of what the outcome of the unitary discussion is. And I think we'll be able to sort of work with whatever authority combination exists in the future, if it indeed changes at all. So any other questions?
Thank you. Paula, do you have any questions?
As I said, I'm like a broken record. I have quite a few questions, but a little bit later, so that I can just get under the skin of some things, if that's okay, Sandy.
Yeah, sorry, I just forgot to mention as well about SJB. It's just to notify, we had the discussion the last time. We explained how the business model had changed quite significantly in the last shareholder review. Over the last year, we basically got to a point where on the sites that we were at with the area that we had, we could not effectively get an effective commercial proposition that satisfied our customers when they came to contract renewal. And effectively, we've then had to withdraw from that market. So. Okay,
right, thank you. I think that probably then concludes that item. As I say, we'll have a more detailed discussion when we move into private session. So the next and final report is Make It York Managing Director's report, which sets out performance of the company over the first 6 months of the financial year. Is Sean with us?
I'm here, Andy. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for that. As with the other reports, I think the report falls into two sections. I think the general narrative piece, and then the we'll discuss in more detail in closed session. I'll just run through the highlights of that first narrative part. Obviously, extremely difficult year for Make It York, as its revenues have been very heavily affected by COVID, as of course have also other businesses. We have continued working, obviously, sort of hybrid model up until yesterday, where we closed the VIC again, where we have a significant number of staff working from home, but where staff can work safely, either in the market or in the shop. They've been doing that. And I think probably in common with a lot of other businesses, we have found that actually, broadly speaking, productivity hasn't been affected negatively at all, which is a very good thing. We've continued with our usual areas of business activity, which I'll just run through quickly now. So the business team has continued with its support work for businesses across York. Key account management is very much part of that, gathering intelligence as to what is going on with those businesses and what the issues they're facing, central to that. I'll come on in a minute to the sector roundtables that we were involved with, but basically of the main businesses our staff have been speaking to, certainly until very recently, they were beginning to look beyond the immediate COVID-19 crisis, and cash flow was particularly a concern going forward. In terms of direct business support, access to finance, skills, marketing support, that sort of thing. Our staff have dealt with well over 200 businesses in the last quarter, including 30 startup businesses, which is in context of COVID is very positive. And it, just by way of sort of I suppose getting a sense of numbers, over the last 3 years, the growth managers who've worked within Make It York have supported 322 companies access just under £1.5 million from the Leeds City region, which is excellent. Inward investment, working closely with CYC on developing an inward investment strategy going forward. And again, a positive, I think, over the last quarter, 24 new inward investment inquiries, which shows that I think York remains an attractive place, obviously, to invest. I mentioned briefly the sector roundtables, which I think I'm right in saying was a unique York response to the COVID crisis. So along with CYC and Chamber, BID, etc., we organised 12 sector roundtables and indeed 3 series of each to establish how businesses were being impacted and to help make sure that the support we could provide as a group was as well targeted as possible. Mm-hmm. Now that involved over 200 businesses attending those 36 meetings over a 3-month period, and the learnings are just being brought together at the moment. And the key question is how we take that process forward in a useful way as we come out of COVID. So it's been a very busy period for that part of the business, and I think we've been working really under an emergency SLA for the last 6 months or so, and I think have worked very closely with CYC and a lot of the other organisations across the city. So looking for positives, I think that is one. Mm-hmm. Cultural wellbeing, the culture strategy is now ready to be launched and was intended to be launched this summer. It's going to be a virtual event on the 3rd of December. And it'll be hosted by Darren Henley, the Chief Executive of the Arts Council, and Greg Dyke, our Chair, will be involved. The idea is very much to celebrate York's cultural sector and to demonstrate that it is diverse in terms of age, application, and method, and that we really do have a genuinely rich cultural sector. So looking forward to that. Beyond that, the Cultural Leaders Group, which Make It York's Helen Apsey chairs, has been very effective, I think, in pulling together sectoral experience and in coordinating funding bids or coordinating information, at least on funding bids. And the sector more widely, I think, has been very effective in being very innovative in the way it's operated. I think Mediale and what they've been up to has been very interesting, and I think the Theatre Royal with their travelling pantomime idea, again, looking for positives. I think a lot of these organisations have found ways of operating in really genuinely innovative ways. We've been involved with the Leeds City region more widely on data collection to make sure we understand what's going on in the sector, and I don't think there's any great surprises in terms of the results there. Huge numbers of businesses in the cultural sector hit very, very hard. The closely related well-being element of our work is, I suppose, led at the moment by the Cultural Commissioning Partnership, which Helen Apsey is chairing. And there is there an opportunity, I think, particularly during lockdown, to look for potential primarily digital social prescribing content and support, and sort of hyper-local cultural solutions to benefit well-being. So again, looking for opportunities to do things differently and better in very difficult circumstances. Speaking of which, the events that we had intended to run across over the Christmas period have been very severely impacted. So, as everybody I think knows, no Christmas market or St Nicholas's Fair. That said, we have worked and had to be quite agile, along with CYC and others, on how we market the city centre and what events we put on, ensuring that they are properly social distanced. And it's been more difficult than we might imagine, even in the current circumstances, to do that. That said, we are running with partners York Business Week next week, which has a good lineup of speakers, and I think will be very interesting. Virtual, obviously, but it will be very interesting, and sort of in a sense at the other end of the spectrum, planning and promotion for next year's Rugby World Cup is ongoing, and we're keeping fingers crossed that will proceed as planned. The third of the four areas in which we operate, marketing and communications, I think the crisis has required refining and redeveloping of our digital business information and support assets. So we completely redeveloped the business support pages on the Make It York pages, and developed case studies on how we can help businesses. And although it's on hold at the moment, the City Narrative Project, which was commissioned the year before last by CYC, is now digitally sitting with Make It York and ready to go when we're through the current troubles. Leisure marketing, as those of you from CYC will know, we've been endeavouring to deliver marketing activities with the money provided by CYC for tourism recovery. While first lockdown ended and we were allowed out and about again, we were able to hold a key worker celebration in August. We launched the Only in York campaign with a new video. We launched a What's On in York along with the York Mix, and arranged for a range of events to take place throughout the summer. Now, clearly that's been hit by lockdown, and I think the general that while if we are set free again on the 2nd of December, that we'll do all we can do safely to promote York as a place to visit. For the moment, we simply can't do that. PR and digital, again, promoting the city, getting recognition of what the city has to offer has gone very well, and the numbers have continued to increase, so that between August and October, for example, on the Visit York website, we had just about 1 million page views, which is pretty good going, I'd say. The final section, commercial and revenue generation, unfortunately, given the circumstances, we're going to go through that very quickly. VIC was shut, has reopened and then closed again last night. York Pass obviously hit extremely hard. as has Visit York membership, etc. On the city centre, again, none of these things will be seamless, but I think Make It York has worked well with CWC and others in closing the city in the first instance, and then opening it again, and now closing it again. Also worked with other organisations like the Retail Forum and the Hotel Association. I suppose the other factor in that is Shambles Market, where Russell McCartney's developing a very good relationship with the market traders. That was the market remained open for food in the first lockdown, and indeed will remain open for food in this lockdown. So that's being very carefully handled in terms of the social distancing requirements. And just to end on one positive, earlier in September, we held the first pop-up evening event in the market, which was an Argentinian-themed food and drink and music event, which was very well received. I think allowed us to showcase Shambles Market as a real community asset, and to provide a venue for local musicians and others, and indeed a venue for residents to utilise in the city centre. So, as I say, it went very, very well, and hopefully the first of many once we get through this current crisis. So that was about all I wanted to say for this part of the meeting, but like others, happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Charlie, did you want to say anything?
No, I don't think so, Chair, at this point. I think
okay.
Fine.
Okay. Paula?
Told you, broken record.
Okay.
Yeah, talk a bit later. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that then concludes that report. The last item on the agenda is urgent business, which, as I said, we don't have any urgent business. So at that point, I think we will have to move into private session. As I say, the actual recommendations and decision on the report we will sort of formally approve at the end of the meeting in private session, but will go into the minutes of the meeting what was decided. So at that point, I'll call the public session.
Can I just say one thing before?
Sure.
Can I just say one thing, just to make sure everybody did hear what you said earlier, Andy, and what Janie agreed with is, so the work programme for this committee will evolve during this meeting, and it will be populated and then turn up at the minutes. Just make sure everybody heard that.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. So thank you everyone for your contributions, and apologies. Obviously it does seem that there's a lot of business to be discussed in private, but the nature of what we're talking about is obviously very sensitive. It needs to be discussed in a confidential session.